small, but strong. She had strong legs, a strong back, and strong shoulders.
Yeah.
And it was her dream to cross the land all the way to the other side with her song and her smile and travel to the river of forgiveness that led to the ocean of life. So she got on her backpack and she got her 2 rocks. One rock full of all her dreams and one rock full of all her fears. She put them in her pack and off she went. And it was a hot day, and she came up to this big tree, and under the tree sat a little boy. So she went up to the boy, and at his feet was a big rock. So she went up to the boy and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I want to go to the river of forgiveness, but my rock, full of all my dreams, is too heavy. And I'm tired." So Claire said, "Well, I have this backpack, and I can totally fit your rock in my bag, and that's where I'm going to, so we can go together." And so he agreed. She put the rock in her bag, and off she went. And as they were walking, Claire sang to him, "I will take a load off of you. I will carry your weight on my shoulders. I am strong, so let me help you. And we will travel together to the river of forgiveness and the ocean of life." And it was a long journey. And 5 years passed.
5 years?
It was a long journey. So they're walking, and they came up to this crossroads. And at this crossroads sat a man, and at his feet were 10 rocks of different sizes. So Claire went up to the man and asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I was going to the river of forgiveness, but I'm at these crossroads, and my rocks full of all my different dreams and all my fears are confusing me, and I'm getting old, my knees are hurting, my skin is burning." And Claire said, "Oh, I have this backpack, and there's totally space for your rocks, and that's where we're going to, so we can go together. So, and I can give you my sun hat, I can give you my walking stick, I can just pick up another one." And he agreed, and so off they went together. And 5 years passed.
5 years?
What a long journey. And Claire was 10 years older, the boy was 10 years older, the man was 5 years older, the boy was stronger. But Claire didn't complain, right? So he didn't ask for her stuff back. So they're walking, and they came up to this bridge, and under this bridge was a stream, and sitting by the stream was a grandmother. And at her feet were 30 pebbles of different sizes. So Claire went up to the grandmother and asked, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, I was going to the river of forgiveness, but I found this stream where I can fish, and I found some berries upstream, and it's nice in the shade, so I don't know if I can go on because I'm getting pretty old. Actually, would you like to join me? I have lots of food." So they were all happy. They sat down, chilling with the grandma, telling some stories, travel stories. And they were all finished eating, so Claire stood up and ready to go. But the man and the boy decided that they were super comfortable here by the stream, under the shade, and they were just going to stay. Yeah. So Claire looked at them and then thought, well, I can't make them do what they don't want to do. So she then turned to the grandmother and said, "I'm going to the river, so if you like, I can take your pebbles. There's my bag is pretty full, but I'm sure the pebbles can fit in the spaces, So the grandma was very grateful, and she took the pebbles, and off she went alone. And it was a long journey. And 5 more years passed.
5 years?
It was a long journey. And she's walking, Claire's walking, and she doesn't have her hat anymore, and her skin's starting to burn, and her knees are starting to get weak, and her shoulders are really starting to ache. She's walking, and finally she started to see a shimmer along the horizon. And as she walked, she realized that she had made it to the river! So she made it to the river, so she came up to the bank of the river and took off her backpack, and her shoulders groaned. She opened the bag and took out the rocks. The 10 rocks from the man, the 1 big rock of the boy, and all the pebbles from the grandmother. And she looked for her rocks, but they weren't there. Instead, there was a pile of sand and a tiny hole. And Claire closed her eyes and realized that all along her journey, the weight of the other rocks had turned her rocks into sand. And as she imagined what would have happened, she thought maybe the dust of her dreams and fears was being scattered all along her path as she was walking. And maybe the wind swept up the dust and took them up into the clouds. Or maybe they came out of the bag and just settled with the flowers. Or maybe they got kicked up by people walking and clung to the skirts of new people and entered new journeys. And as she thought that, she smiled a little smile. She took off her shoes and stepped into the river and placed all the rocks of her friends into the river. And the swift current took them down into the ocean of life. And with no rocks of her own, Claire immersed herself in the river. And the water washed over her skin, cooled her skin, washed away the dirt, and relaxed her muscles. And as she sighed in the river, 100 fish gathered around her. And they lifted her up weightlessly. And they took her down the river and sang, "We will take a load off of you. We will carry our weight on our shoulders. We are strong, so let us help you. And we will take you down the river of forgiveness to the ocean of life." The end. Yeah.